So singer David is in some hot water.
This new footage has put David, known as D4vd, in serious hot water. Pulled from CCTV at the parking lot where his Tesla was left, the clip doesn't just show the car, it captures a fight breaking out beside it. But the real question is, who was with David that night? And what exactly was happening before that car became the center of a shocking discovery? Stay with us to know the chilling details. The footage that changed everything. The images and footage are grainy but unmistakable. A black Tesla Model 3, police tape wrapped tight around it, and officers clustered under the glow of flashing red and blue lights. Then comes the moment that freezes the world in disbelief. A coroner's team carefully sliding a body bag out of the car's trunk. The footage captured at an impound lot in Los Angeles is more than shocking. It is chilling proof that a missing girl story has collided with the rising career of one of Gen Z's biggest music stars. Los Angeles has always been a city of contrasts. It's a place where glamour and decay often sit side by side, where flashing paparazzi cameras capture stars walking out of luxury hotels, while just a few blocks away, someone is being arrested on Skid Row. But even in a city that has seen more than its share of shocking headlines, nothing could have prepared people for what unfolded on September 8, 2025. At first, it seemed like routine business at Hollywood Toe, an impound lot tucked behind busy streets near Mansfield Avenue and Roma Street. Workers there were used to dealing with abandoned cars. They'd seen it all before. Dusty vehicles left for weeks, stripped-down shells of stolen rides, even the occasional rat nest inside a glove compartment. But that day, something was different. Something was wrong. A black Tesla Model 3 had been brought in just 2 days earlier on September 6th. The vehicle, sleek and still relatively new, had Texas license plates and looked like it should have belonged to someone successful, someone who could afford the luxury of an electric car. But it had been left abandoned on a quiet road in the Hollywood Hills. Parked for nearly a week before residents finally complained. When the tow truck dragged it down to the lot, nobody thought much of it. After all, abandoned cars weren't unusual in the hills. Yet, by the morning of September 8th, the staff began to notice something no one could ignore. A horrible stench. Workers described it as sharp, overwhelming, and unmistakable. It wasn't just the smell of garbage or spoiled food left behind in a car. It was something deeper, something that clung to your throat and made your stomach turn. One worker later admitted to reporters that he instantly knew what it was. "That's not trash," he said. "That's death." Alarmed, they called the police. Officers from the Los Angeles Police Department's Robbery Homicide Division responded quickly. They had heard this kind of call before. Suspicious odors from vehicles often led to grim discoveries. But no one expected what they were about to see. When officers popped the hood, expecting perhaps drugs or contraband hidden away, what they actually found was a sight straight out of a nightmare. The front of the Tesla contained a large plastic bag, and inside it a body severely decomposed beyond recognition. A crime scene hidden in plain sight. Even among hardened investigators, there was a hush. Some turned away, others stared, unable to believe it. For the impound workers, it was traumatizing. They had to grapple with the idea that the car they had been walking past every day carried a dead teenager inside. But the shock was only just beginning. The Tesla wasn't just any car. A quick records check confirmed it was registered to David Anthony Burke, a 20-year-old musician better known to the world by his stage name D4vd. He wasn't some unknown celebrity in the making. He was one of the most recognizable new voices in music, the creator of viral hits like Here With Me and Romantic Homicide. His songs had been streamed hundreds of millions of times. His TikTok following had exploded. And in 2025, he was in the middle of his sold-out Withered World tour. At the very moment investigators were zipping up evidence bags in Los Angeles, Burke himself was on stage across the country performing to thousands of screaming fans. He had no idea that his abandoned...
So singer David is in some hot water. Previously, it was reported a dismembered body was found in the trunk of his car while he was on tour. Today, the dead body was identified as a 15-year-old who's been missing since she was 13.
The LAPD quickly clarified that the case was being treated as a homicide investigation, though they stopped short of naming Burke as a suspect. Still, the damage was done. Public opinion doesn't wait for official statement. Overnight, D4vd's carefully crafted image, the quiet, introverted gamer-turned-musician, the Gen Z artist with a sad boy aesthetic, was shattered. Fans felt betrayed. How could the same young man who once told interviewers he made songs out of loneliness, who spoke openly about his faith and his struggles with isolation, now be connected even tangentially to a decomposing body in his own car? The footage of officers at the impound lot of flashing police lights bouncing off the Tesla's glossy paint became one of the most chilling visuals of 2025. And though investigators insisted that no arrests have been made and no suspects identified, for many the question was already formed in their minds. For days after the discovery, the body found in the trunk of that Tesla remained officially unidentified. Police released only the barest details. The remains were female, badly decomposed, and clearly had been hidden for a long time. But behind the scenes, forensic specialists were already working tirelessly to give the victim back her name. On September 17, 2025, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office released its findings. The body was that of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a teenager from Lake Elsinore, Riverside County, California. The confirmation shook people to their core. For Celeste's family, who had lived in limbo for more than a year, it was the nightmare ending to a story they had prayed might turn out differently. Celeste had been reported missing on April 5, 2024. That spring afternoon, she told her brother Matthew she was heading out to see a movie with him. Somehow, somewhere along that short journey, she vanished. She was just 13 at the time. Her family searched desperately. They plastered missing posters around Lake Elsinore, begged for help online, and filed repeated reports with the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. Yet, weeks turned to months. Months turned to a year, and hope began to erode. To lose a child to disappearance is a cruel kind of torture. Every knock on the door could be news. Every unidentified body could be them. And now, on September 17, 2025, that cruel uncertainty was replaced by finality. Their little girl was gone. Celeste's physical details painted a haunting picture. She was small, just over 5 foot tall, and barely 71 pounds. Her long, wavy black hair had once been a feature she was proud of, according to friends. When her remains were found, she was wearing the same clothes she had last been seen in, a tube top, black leggings, and a yellow metal bracelet shaped like a W, along with...
The girl and David have matching tattoos on their hand. The mom of the girl recalls hearing from her that her boyfriend's name is David, which just happens to be the name of David, spelled with a 4, his performance name. David is 20 years old.
For Celeste's mother, the tattoo was the first confirmation that it was her daughter. She told TMZ she had suspected it all along. When the LAPD announced they had found the body of a young girl inside a Tesla and then described her size, her clothes, and her jewelry, she knew in her heart. She also revealed a detail that has fueled speculation ever since. At the time of her disappearance, Celeste had told her she had a boyfriend named David. Her mother never met him. She never saw his face. But that name, David, would return with devastating force once it was tied to the car owner, David Anthony Burke. The more the details came out, the more impossible it seemed to dismiss them as coincidence. The tattoo match, the boyfriend's name, the fact that the Tesla was registered directly to Burke, not stolen, not borrowed. For many online, the picture was becoming clear long before the LAPD issued any formal conclusions. But the heartbreak was personal before it was ever public. Celeste's family launched a GoFundMe page to cover her burial services and legal expenses. Friends described her as sweet and studious, a girl who once attended Lakeland Village School and dreamed of doing something meaningful with her life. Her mother's grief spilled over into every media interaction, the disbelief, the anger, the hollow exhaustion of waiting for answers that might never bring peace. By this point, the case was no longer just a local homicide investigation. It was becoming a global scandal, and the questions were only multiplying. How long had Celeste been dead? How had her body ended up in the front trunk of a Tesla? And most importantly, what connection, if any, did David Anthony Burke have to the girl whose remains had just been identified? Fans pointed back to his viral hit, Romantic Homicide, which had lines like, "In the back of my mind, you died." The song's release date reportedly the same day as Celeste's birthday. Was it a coincidence or something more sinister? Let's go back to David's history for answers. The controversial history of D4vd. Long before his name became linked to a homicide investigation, David Anthony Burke, known professionally as D4vd, was considered one of Gen Z's most unlikely success stories. To his fans, he embodied the dream of turning isolation into inspiration, transforming the hours spent gaming alone into songs that touched millions worldwide. Born in Queens, New York in 2005, Burke's early life was far from glamorous. He was raised in a devout Christian household and homeschooled. Until his teenage years, a sheltered upbringing that left him outside the rhythms of typical school life. While other kids made friends in classrooms and cafeterias, Burke's world was smaller: church choirs, family Bible study, and video games in his bedroom. That loneliness would later become the fuel for his music. By 2017, when Fortnite exploded onto the gaming scene, Burke was one of the first to dive in. The Battle Royale game became an obsession. Hours turned into days as he and a tight group of online friends combed through updates, tested new strategies, and perfected their gameplay. Soon, Burke wasn't just playing. He was uploading montage videos to YouTube, hoping to carve out a space in the booming world of gaming content creators. At first, hardly anyone noticed.
So basically, I played Fortnite from 2017 to 2021. Game came out in 2017. I was one of the first people to ever play the game. So I played that game. I became a YouTuber.
Burke began experimenting. He added mainstream tracks from popular artists into his Fortnite montages, and suddenly, the numbers skyrocketed. Videos that once had a few hundred views were pulling in 200,000, 300,000, even millions. For the first time, it felt like things were clicking. But there was a catch. The same music that boosted his views also triggered copyright strikes. By 2021, Universal Music Group and other labels had flagged his videos, cutting off his ad revenue. Overnight, the money dried up. Burke, still a teenager, was devastated. He turned to his mother, venting about how his dream of being a gaming YouTuber was collapsing. Her answer was dismissive, but life-changing. Just make your own music. That piece of motherly tough love pushed Burke into a new direction. On December 21st, 2021, he downloaded a music-making app onto his iPhone, grabbed his Apple earbuds, and transformed his sister's closet into a makeshift studio. Robes, blankets, and clothing acted as soundproofing. He searched YouTube for emo piano type beats and started freestyling into the mic. That was how the first D4vd songs were born. The learning curve was steep, but Burke had something most others didn't: instinct. His very first tracks found small traction on SoundCloud, boosted by the right hashtags: #emo, #lofi, #slowed_reverb. Soon Fortnite creators began using his music in their videos. The momentum built quickly. One early track, You and I, exploded, racking up 100,000 streams in just 3 days.
And I looked up how to make music on iPhone, and this app called BandLab comes up. I click on it, I put my Apple earbuds in, and I use my sister's closet as the studio. So I'm like in here, it's dark, we got like robes and everything, blankets, whatever. And I'm looking up type beats on YouTube.
By 2022, Burke had created the viral hit that would define him, Romantic Homicide. Unlike his earlier upbeat tracks, this one was slow, heavy, and filled with melancholy. His own mother hated it, calling it too violent, which in Burke's mind only confirmed that he was onto something. When he released it on TikTok, it spread like wildfire, racking up millions of plays almost instantly. Alongside it came another breakout single, Here With Me, which captured the dreamy, emotional aesthetic that TikTok thrived on. By the time both songs crossed into mainstream charts, Burke was no longer just a bedroom musician. He was a star. In 2023, he released his first EP, Petals to Thorns. In early 2025, his debut album, Withered, followed, supported by a world tour that sold out venues across North America and Europe. Collaborations with artists like Uchis solidified his standing. By mid-2025, he had millions of followers on TikTok and Instagram and over 33 million monthly Spotify listeners. To outsiders, it looked like the perfect Gen Z fairy tale. A homeschooled gamer raised on church hymns turns his loneliness into art and becomes a superstar. He embodied vulnerability and creativity. Someone who had stumbled into fame by accident, even telling interviewers he never planned to be a musician. But as we now know, the past doesn't always stay hidden. Behind the polished tracks and the soft-spoken persona, there were already shadows forming. As the Celeste Rivas case unfolded, screenshots began to leak from online forums, particularly Discord servers dating back to 2023. These unverified images appeared to show Burke interacting with a girl who resembled Celeste, then barely a teenager. Post claimed he had been closer to her than he ever admitted. Some suggested he had even been photographed with her. Blurry, grainy images circulating online that fans insisted were proof of a secret relationship. Then came the allegations of a song called Celeste, supposedly recorded in 2023. Metadata tied to Interscope Records appeared to link Burke to an unfinished demo with that name. Lyrics allegedly referenced themes of longing and romance. And after the body was discovered, listeners claimed the track was inspired by the very girl found in his car. Even more disturbing were accusations from online communities that Burke may have begun an inappropriate relationship with Celeste when she was as young as 12 or 13. Some threads went as far as alleging he had paid hush money to conceal interactions with minor. None of these claims have been verified by police, but in the fevered environment of social media, the absence of clarity only fanned the flames. One particularly persistent rumor accused Burke of paying hush money to silence underage girls he had interacted with. While no official evidence has surfaced to support this, the claims have circulated widely on TikTok and Reddit, amplified by users convinced they are uncovering a hidden pattern. Bert, the quiet introvert who once claimed he imagined heartbreaks to write music, was now being recast as something far more sinister. A predator who had groomed a teenager, hidden her body, and perhaps left a trail of clues in his own songs. Beyond the alleged connection to Celeste, Burke's public record remained mostly clean before 2025. He avoided beefs with other artists, choosing instead to stay in his own lane. Even when other TikTok-born musicians clashed online, D4vd rarely engaged. That ironically is why the scandal hit so hard. There was no prior drama to prepare fans for something of this scale. Let's now tell you recent development of the case. Initial investigations and consequences. The discovery of Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body inside a Tesla Model 3 registered to David Anthony Burke, the musician known as D4vd, threw the Los Angeles Police Department into one of its most high-profile investigations in recent memory. From the moment the black Tesla was pried open at Hollywood Tow, detectives knew they were dealing with a case that would demand precision, speed, and a public already hungry for answers. The Tesla was sealed off with crime scene tape, and the entire impound lot became an evidence zone. Forensic teams worked late into the night photographing the vehicle from every angle before removing the body. The condition of the remains was shocking. The coroner's office later described the body as being in an advanced state of decomposition, consistent with having been hidden for weeks, possibly months. Inside the car, investigators documented everything: fingerprints, DNA traces, fibers, soil samples, even air quality readings. Every inch of the Tesla, from its seats to its glove box, was swabbed.
Yeah, it was impounded right here in Hollywood.
No way.
That's for sure evidence. If it's a body found in there, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, they're gonna scrub that. But I mean, obviously his DNA is gonna be in it, and her DNA is gonna be in it. I feel like if they don't find other DNA,
Bro, either way it goes, she's been. That's a missing child.
Is he arrested yet?
Not yet.
But despite the disturbing find, there was no immediate arrest. That decision frustrated many watching online. Commenters flooded X with accusations that the LAPD was protecting Burke because of his celebrity status. Others argued the opposite, that police were deliberately building an airtight case to avoid any chance of defense lawyers claiming sloppy work. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office worked to officially identify the remains. Dental records confirmed what Celeste's tattoo had already suggested. The body was hers. But the cause of death was not so simple. On September 17th, the coroner listed the cause of death as deferred, meaning toxicology tests and further analysis were required. This ambiguity fueled speculation. Was Celeste killed violently? Did she overdose? Was she suffocated or poisoned? Without clarity, social media filled the silence with its own theories. Some pointed to romantic homicide as a confession of murder. Others claimed she may have been drugged to keep her silent. Each new rumor spread faster than the last. At the same time, detectives began reconstructing Celeste's last known movements. They revisited the night of April 5th, 2024, when she was last seen by her brother, Matthew, after a trip to the movies. They interviewed neighbors in Lake Elsinore. They pulled phone records, social media DMs, and location pings. Each clue painted a partial picture of a girl who had simply vanished until she reappeared a year later in the most horrifying way possible. The focus inevitably returned to Burke, his Tesla, his registration, his name tied to the crime scene. Detectives subpoenaed his travel records, cross-referencing his 2024 to 2025 tour schedule with the timeline of Celeste's disappearance. They dug into his cell phone history, Discord logs, and emails. Even his family home in Houston reportedly became part of the inquiry. Publicly, LAPD spokespeople were cautious. They confirmed the case was being treated as a homicide, but they stopped short of naming Burke as a suspect. "We are following all leads," one statement read. Privately, however, the tension was undeniable. Detectives were racing against time, not just to solve a case, but to stay ahead of a wildfire of conspiracy theories that threatened to overwhelm the facts. But the deeper investigators dug, the more they realized this case was about more than one teenager's tragic end. It was becoming a collision between celebrity, fandom, and justice. And the world was demanding answers. In the absence of clear answers from police, speculation filled the void. Within hours of the LAPD confirming that the remains belonged to 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, the internet had turned into a courtroom with D4vd as the defendant. On TikTok, creators began dissecting his lyrics line by line, arguing that songs like Romantic Homicide and Here With Me were thinly veiled confessions. One popular video stitched the lyric, "In the back of my mind you died," with images of Celeste's missing posters captioned simply, "Was he telling us all along?" On Reddit, entire threads popped up under titles like Timeline of D4vd and Celeste. Amateur sleuths mapped his concert tour stops against the timeline of her disappearance, pointing out every moment his whereabouts seemed unclear. Some even went so far as to claim he deliberately scheduled shows in cities far from Los Angeles to build an alibi. Theories spiraled fast. Some insisted that Burke had been in a secret relationship with Celeste, pointing to their alleged matching tattoos as proof. In this new age of fan detectives, every scrap of information became evidence. Old live streams were replayed frame by frame. Photos were zoomed in to search for background figures who might be Celeste. Even metadata from unreleased demos was scoured by internet sleuths looking for hidden references. But speculation wasn't limited to his fans. Mainstream media outlets began weighing in too. Some highlighted the bizarre coincidence of the matching tattoo. Others ran with Celeste's mother's statement that her daughter once mentioned a boyfriend named David. Each new detail, no matter how small, became headline fuel. The most explosive theory came when whispers of an unreleased track called Celeste surfaced. Allegedly recorded in 2023, the song was said to contain lyrics about a forbidden love and a tragic ending. Though no official release existed, supposed leaks of snippets spread like wildfire. Whether authentic or not, the internet treated it as gospel. Meanwhile, some defended Burke. Loyal fans argued that the evidence was circumstantial. The SH tattoo was a common design. Rihanna had it too. The demo leaks were unverified, and in a world where artists often write about fictional scenarios, pointing to song lyrics as proof of guilt seemed reckless. To them, the real tragedy was Celeste's death being hijacked by conspiracy theories. Still, the tide of public opinion leaned heavily against him. Hashtags like #ArrestDavidBurke trended daily. Memes mocked him as the real romantic homicide. Petitions circulated online demanding Spotify and YouTube remove his music until the investigation was complete. For Celeste's family, watching the frenzy was unbearable. Her mother told TMZ she felt as though her daughter's death had become a spectacle, stripped of dignity and turned into entertainment. But their pleas for privacy were drowned out by the roar of speculation. For detectives, the viral storm created both opportunities and obstacles. On one hand, tips poured in. People combing through Burke's digital footprint sometimes unearthed leads worth checking. On the other hand, the sheer volume of noise made it hard to separate fact from fiction. Every baseless rumor meant more resources spent disproving false claims. And yet, the theories would not stop. Every day seemed to bring a new angle, a new supposed revelation, a new piece of circumstantial evidence that only deepened the mystery. By mid-September 2025, one thing was clear: this was no longer just an investigation. It had become a trial by social media, one in which the verdict was being decided not in a courtroom, but in comment sections and viral videos. The question wasn't just what happened to Celeste. It was whether D4vd could ever escape the narrative being built around him, a narrative growing darker and more elaborate with each passing day. While investigators combed through evidence, the music industry moved faster. Interscope Records, which had signed Burke, reportedly entered emergency meetings about whether to suspend his contract. Collaborators scrambled to distance themselves. Kali Uchis confirmed she no longer wanted her name associated with him, leading to the removal of Crashing from playlists. Streaming platforms faced petitions with tens of thousands of signatures demanding his songs be pulled. Venues began canceling his fall tour dates. By September 20th, at least 4 shows were officially called off with ticket refunds announced quietly through promoters. For an artist who once boasted 33 million monthly listeners on Spotify, the collapse was swift and merciless. What had taken years to build seemed to unravel in days. Among fans, the fracture was complete. One side, once loyal supporters, turned on him, scrubbing his music from their playlists and posting angry videos with captions like, "We supported a monster." Others doubled down in his defense, calling the investigation a witch hunt, and pointing out that no charges had yet been filed. On X, one user summed up the split bluntly: "It's either the biggest setup in music history or the darkest scandal we've ever seen." The debate grew toxic. Some fans went after Celeste's family online, accusing them of exploiting their daughter's death. Others harassed Burke's relatives, digging up old photos and addresses. What should have been a fight for justice turned into a digital battleground with a grieving family caught in the crossfire. For law enforcement, the case became a test of public trust. Could the LAPD prove they were pursuing truth and not protecting a celebrity? Every day without an arrest was seen by some as evidence of corruption. For the Rivas family, the consequences were deeply personal. Their daughter's story was consumed by the machinery of celebrity scandal. Her memory overshadowed by hashtags and clickbait headlines. And for Burke, the consequences were existential. Even if police later cleared him, the court of public opinion had already rendered its verdict. His once carefully built persona, the homeschooled gamer, the sad boy poet, the humble Christian musician, was shattered. In its place stood an image far darker, a man whose art, his past, and his very identity were now inseparable from tragedy. As September drew to a close, no arrest had been made. Toxicology results were still pending. The Tesla's black box data was still under analysis, but in the eyes of the world, the case had already changed everything. What began as a missing person report in 2024 ended as a global scandal in 2025. A grieving family was left with more questions than answers. A young girl's life had been cut short, and a rising star's career was in ruins, perhaps forever. What are your thoughts on this case? Share them in the comments and click the card on screen for more.